Chi-Chi, I'd drive you if I could, but you know I don't have a driver's license yet.
Well, it's time you got one! I don't know why you have to be the only man in this town who doesn't have a driver's license or a car!
You can't drive, can you?
Leave me out of this!
I want both of you to put your training on hold for now and go to driving school tomorrow! I think it's about time the two of you learn something useful for a change.
Say what?
Aw, Chi-Chi, do we have to?
Listen, all I'm asking you two to do is get your driver's license. It's not like I'm asking you to save the world.
Welcome to Gimmicks, a podcast about the high-concept, experimental, structure-breaking gimmick episodes of TV, from musicals to bottle episodes to filler episodes pitting the Earth's greatest heroes against the completely mundane. I'm David Arnold.
And I'm Derek B. Gale, and I'm just going to Kamehameha my way to a driver's license.
Oh my gosh, you're so good at this. And who is with us today?
Oh, it's me. It's Stik Braxton. Yeah, the resident anime guy when everybody needs him.
Listen, we needed it because this is really new terrain for me, Stik. So we needed someone to balance out the intense amount of research that Derek did for this episode. I took a nap and I came back and the note stock had exploded while I slept.
There's a lot to cover in this episode, while also not a lot to cover.
Yeah. I think there's going to be a lot. I feel like this is going to be one of those conversations where it's like front loaded with general like Dragon Ball talk, because that's what we're talking about. Akira Toriyama's Dragon Ball Z. We're gonna have a lot of background stuff, but I feel like the actual like episode conversation is just gonna be like, yeah, here's some fun stuff, and then
Smooth.
nothing deep,
11 scenes, no problem. Best notes I've taken for the pod, honestly.
I love it. If you are not familiar with Dragon Ball Z, like David here, it is a Japanese anime, of course, created by the legend Akira Toriyama, produced by Toei Animation, part of the Dragon Ball media franchise, originally running in Japan from April 89 to January 1996 on Fuji TV. Of course, ran in the late 90s in syndication, but I think most well known in the 2000s on Cartoon Network's Toonami block, and really put Toonami on the map in the West. The Cliff's Notes for the show, the Dragon Ball Z specifically is a sequel to the 1986 Dragon Ball series, which itself was heavily inspired by the classic Chinese story Journey to the West, especially with like Goku in the role of Monkey King, because he's literally a kid with a monkey tail going on adventures and doing martial arts, Original Dragon Ball, much more fantasy bent, took place in a world with like equal parts martial arts, dinosaurs, demons, furry animal people everywhere, and no one comments on any of it. It's just the state of the world.
It's incredible that even in this like little episode where we have very few background actors, one of them's just like a cat man, and it's a non-issue.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, so that's the setting that it takes place in, right? Like this world where like you can have flying hover cars, and that exists seamlessly with just like animal people, and also like magic orbs that you can use to summon an ancient dragon to grant all of your wishes, aka the Dragon Balls. Like, weird setting, but I think will be really interesting for our conversation, for our context too, is like, that's the setting for it. That's where Dragon Ball starts. But Dragon Ball Z, which I think is more well known in the West, especially than Dragon Ball, the original iteration, way more sci-fi oriented, a sci-fi action oriented sequel. It continues Goku's adventures as an adult after his marriage to Chi-Chi and the birth of his son Gohan, but then goes in like wild directions comparatively to the original one, because it's like, hey, by the way, Goku's actually like this alien named Kakarot from this Saiyan planet that's now destroyed. So he's like reimagined as the Superman figure, and he's defending the world from villains like aliens and androids from the future and like demonic creatures. Like just a wildly different swing from the original iteration of Dragon Ball that I think makes the experiences of people who started with Dragon Ball versus started with Dragon Ball Z very different. Mm-hmm. So plenty more background to stuff that I want to dive into, but I think we'll pause there to talk about our own experiences, because I think that'll dovetail into like the weirdness of where Dragon Ball exists in pop culture in the West, especially. Stik, what's your experience with the Dragon Ball franchise and Dragon Ball Z?
I think it's the same with like mostly everyone, and it's, Toonami. Dragon Ball Z was like the first introduction to the franchise. Like, I feel like if you ask 100 people who like Dragon Ball Z, if they saw Dragon Ball first, they're 98% of them are like, no.
Yeah.
I was introduced to Dragon Ball Z first. So I remember coming home from school, running to finish my homework to make sure I made it for that episode of Dragon Ball Z. Because, and I don't want to sound like the old dude on the porch yelling at the kids on my grass, right? But we didn't have recordings. We didn't have Netflix, Hulu. We had to make sure we made it by 5:30 to watch these episodes, or we missed it. So then we'd have to find another way to watch those episodes. So I that was my first introduction to like real anime. And so even though there are higher anime on my list, Dragon Ball Z will always be in that special part of my hierarchy, because it was the one that kind of introduced me and was the gate opener for like the anime experience.
Yeah. No, that makes a ton of sense. Like, I mean, Dragon Ball Z is like, I think, the example of a gateway anime. Like, people will cite plenty of other things. Like, I think, you can cite, like, we've talked about it on the Cowboy Bebop episode, that Cowboy Bebop is kind of a gateway anime, but I feel like that's specifically a gateway anime for people to get into like older oriented animes, right? Like for adults. Dragon Ball Z, I think, was this perfect middle ground. Like, you might get into like Pokemon or Digimon, and maybe it stops there. Dragon Ball Z, I think, because it was so weird, like it's a like, if you look at it on the surface, like, oh, it's about like martial arts people with powers, like whatever. But then you actually watch the show, and like the world of Dragon Ball Z is like of Dragon Ball in general is like fucking nonsense. It's so strange, and like unabashedly strange, and kind of unabashedly Japanese in so many ways, that I think that really helped people be like, this is interesting and different, and I want to watch more things that are like this, that aren't like even as edited as Dragon Ball kind of was in America. I think at a certain point, it wasn't as like sanitized still as like Pokemon maybe was. So like, it's like, I want to see more anime that has these heavily Japanese influences. I want to see a show that is unabashedly from a completely different culture. And yeah, I think so many people really attribute this show as being like, this is the first one I watched, and then I became a fucking weeb after that, all thanks to Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z specifically.
I think too, if when people, when you hear somebody say, oh, it's a different anime that got them into anime, I think those people are like, oh, you're lying, because it has to be Dragon Ball Z. I know people who are like, yeah, no, I watched Sailor Moon. It's like, no, you didn't. You had to watch. Like, no, like there are other anime, but like, it's just so common for somebody to be like, even the toughest dudes in school who may have bullied somebody, or who like, was out in the streets doing like random things, they know about Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So that's how in the culture it was for like, for everybody. I feel like Dragon Ball Z like raised a lot of us, in the anime community.
Yeah. I think to your point, I think a thing that was really interesting about how this got introduced to Western audiences, because the thing is, like, in Japan, Dragon Ball was a hit in the late 80s. Like, that was a thing. Dragon Ball has been one of the biggest hits ever in Japan. It's like the face of shonen anime, undoubtedly Akira Toriyama's biggest hit. We'll talk about him more, in a bit, but like, he's done a lot of amazing, huge things, but even still, among all the stuff that he's done, Dragon Ball is like the biggest that he's ever done. Highly influential in anime, and then eventually becomes very influential in Western culture too. But I think like the thing that's so interesting is that like Dragon Ball Z, I think, worked specifically for Western audiences at the time that it did, because if you just jump into Dragon Ball Z, not having a context of Dragon Ball, which most of us didn't, and are watching the American dub, which I'll talk about it, but like change the music to be like electric guitar, synth music and stuff like that, you're watching, like, you can be someone who's like not interested in like weird cartoons or whatever, and maybe feels like you're too old for cartoons, and it's sort of like, okay, but like, this is like so badass and like edgy though, right? Like, this is so fucking cool. And then like you get into it, and then the more you watch, the more you realize like this is actually like weird magical stuff, but you're already sold on this like badass, edgy, like muscly dudes punching each other, and it's like bloody and there's death and everything. And then like, it's sort of like, I think and like kind of traps you into it, and then you become more adapted to like the weirder elements and more magical elements of it. So like it was able to touch a wider audience than I think a lot of other anime were able to do, just because of the exact right way that it was marketed and dubbed and edited and changed and presented to the audience, you know?
Yeah. That is fascinating. I have to support Stik's thesis here because I am not a huge anime fan, and I think it's because I didn't have the exposure to Dragon Ball Z. I think that if I had had that as a youth, the pathways would have opened up to me. Instead, I would just find an anime to watch, and then I would like engage the entire thing. But to me, that's not like being a fan of mystery novels. That's being a fan of like one author, and you just read their stuff and then you're done. Yeah. And that's kind of my approach to this. I did date a guy who got me into Dragon Ball, which then made any encounter I had with Dragon Ball Z very confusing. Because young Goku and Gohan look a little similar enough that if you're not paying attention and you watch one of these back to back with the other one, it's a little confusing. We did watch the tournament where they're fighting other people, and that was my like most significant exposure to this world.
You say that, but that's like 14 different arcs is a tournament.
Yeah,
where
okay,
characters
well that's
are fighting
fair.
each
Okay,
other. Like,
okay. Listen.
I don't know which one you mean from which Dragon Ball series.
That's fair. I accept that, Derek. And here's the other thing that's wild to me is how much, despite this not being something that I find culturally
Resonant.
I find it very culturally resonant, but I don't see like Buffy quoting Dragon Ball. I don't see us pulling in the weeb other places the way that I do a lot of other media. And yet I have so much knowledge about this world that has somehow made its way into my mind. As I'm typing out the notes and I type out Frieza, I was like, I know who this person is, but I don't know how, Derek and Stik. I truly am not. Like, I'm worried. I need to see like a hypnotherapist to figure out how this knowledge made its way into my brain. I can pick Frieza out of a lineup, and there's no reason that should be true.
That's so
It's
interesting.
disturbing.
But I wonder if part of it could just be that I think Akira Toriyama's character designs are so distinct and unlike anything else. There's stuff that has since then been inspired by it and sort of riffs on it, but like the original, his original ideas are so distinct and so like Dragon Ball design. Like if you see something from Dragon Ball, you can tell so quickly that this is from Dragon Ball. And so I wonder if it makes it easier for if you just seeing stuff in passing, like you've never, where else are you going to see a character that looks like Frieza that has the name Frieza? Yeah, like it's so weird, so it kind of makes sense that you'd see that and that's going to stick with you more than a lot of other pop culture osmosis type things,
And I wonder too, if at the time, maybe we didn't see the cultural references in these shows, but like maybe if we went back now and like watched episodes, we would catch them. I think the main one that I always go to is, you grew up and you played Sonic the Hedgehog, right? And you're just playing it, you're just going through it. You're like, oh man, he has to get the 7 Chaos Emeralds, and then he can become a Super Sonic. And then you start watching Dragon Ball Z, and you're like, wow, he has 7 Dragon Balls. And then and all of a sudden he becomes a Super Saiyan. They're exactly the same. They had the exact spiky hair, like it's all there. Like, it's the references are right there, but like you just never notice it until you actually think about it. And then you go back, like Dragon Ball Z is like, what is it? The 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon?
Yeah.
There's a 6 degrees of Dragon Ball Z, I think. And I can't figure it out, but I know there has to be.
Stik, real time. I've never wanted this to be a video podcast before this exact moment, because you could actually see my mind explode at the thought of this. Because this really is the first reference of like 7 things. You've got to gather them. Anime does that shit all the time. We're always finding 7 things.
Yeah. I mean,
wow.
It's when people say that this franchise is influential, like they're not lying. Like it's legit, especially shonen anime or anything like and aimed for this particular audience of like magical action for children, like it kind of at this point, like everything comes from Dragon Ball Z kind of going forward, or Dragon Ball in general going forward in an interesting way. Like I definitely think you can trace a lot of those threads.
Wow.
My experience with Dragon Ball, it's similar to Stik. What do you? Well, actually, I was going to ask you. Do you remember do you remember being there from like early on or like day one or whatever, or was it? Or do you remember like when you started watching it?
I'm trying to remember when I popped in. it was probably during the early stages. I think I may have missed like the first couple episodes. So
Yeah.
like I'm walking in and they're fighting Raditz maybe.
Yes.
So I might have missed like, oh, Goku has a son, and that was like a huge deal. But like again, if you don't watch Dragon
Right.
Ball, like you're like, oh, okay, cool, dude has a son. Like,
Yeah.
okay, like that's a regular thing. Um, like, that's a regular thing.
Yeah.
But then like you see, and then like, oh, he's teaming up with Piccolo. Cool.
Yeah.
Like, but you don't know that he was like that was his biggest villain.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so it's so weird. But yeah, I think like writing that Saiyan saga is like where I started.
Mhm.
And
Makes
so
sense.
yeah, so fairly in the beginning.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. For me, I was always really wary for some reason of anime. Like I don't know. I think my parents were like, that looks weird, and that like imprinted on me of sort of like anything that's not made by Americans explicitly is we're gonna consider it weird because I guess we were just like quietly xenophobic or whatever over there. That changed obviously over time, but it meant that I feel like I had a little bit of like it took a little while for me to like be willing to even engage with stuff. Like I didn't really watch much of the Pokemon anime, and it took me a while to get into Digimon at first, until it just sort of like overtook me, and I just never considered that Power Rangers had anything to do with Japan until like I kind of learned that later, you know. So Dragon Ball Z is a very anime kind of anime. So I was definitely sort of like I kind of refused to engage with it until you just couldn't avoid it if you watched Cartoon Network at a certain point. And I remember the first time that I started getting really into it, weirdly and relevant to this conversation, it was during the Garlic Jr. saga, which is explicitly a filler saga that exists, that like Goku isn't in it. It was not from the manga. It was just like made to fill time essentially. And Gohan and like Piccolo are like kind of the main characters of that. And so I get into it with that. I'm sort of like, oh, this is like interesting. Like the story of like this little kid who's like kind of, you know, nervous and afraid and really smart and kind of nerdy, but like learning to accept his power in this world full of like monsters that are trying to kill him, and his like big green guardian dude. And then I keep watching, and then it goes into like the androids from the future. And I'm like, this is just fucking Terminator. I love Terminator. This is the coolest stuff in the world. But then at the same time, I also realized like, oh, this is so interesting because like actually Goku is the main character, but I don't really care about Goku. He's just like a powerful guy. I like Gohan, which again works because a lot of the Cell saga is very much about Gohan coming into his own and like kind of sets up that Gohan would sort of take over the show from Goku, which ends up not really happening. But so as a result, I feel like I had such a strong attachment to that back half of the show, and Gohan as a character and his relationship with Piccolo. But I did still go back and like watch all the reruns that Toonami was always running of the first two. So I still like caught up eventually, but I never really got into like the original Dragon Ball. It was always Dragon Ball Z for me. And I do think that this show is interesting because I do feel like you probably can talk to many people who dropped in at many different points of the dub, like completely out of context. You're sort of like, okay, this is weird and cool, and I don't really get it, but seems fun, and it's so enticing that like it's just easy to just kind of seamlessly drop into and get into from there, you know?
Yeah.
Is does Dragon Ball Z still have like relevance to either of you? Do you watch it on the regular? Do you catch? I mean, we're not the world that just like puts on Cartoon Network and finds a show anymore. That just doesn't exist. But like, do you pop on an episode every once in a while?
I think it's like any other comfort show. You find your favorite episodes, and you know, because now that you know the story, you don't really need to watch. You don't have to build up to it. You can just be like, I know what's happened here. Let me just pop in here. So yeah, every now and again, I want to see, you know, Goku turn Super Saiyan for the first time, or I want to see Vegeta get his arm broken again. And you know, you pick and choose what you want to watch, man. So yeah, it's one of those ones where you find one and you just pop it on.
Yeah, for me, it's never been a show that I've been particularly enticed to like heavily revisit. Like I watched through DBZ, I watched through some of GT and didn't really like it, which I think most of the world feels the same way. And so I kind of dropped off after that, you know. But since then, I never really felt a strong desire to like heavily revisit it. But it's always been a comforting, nostalgic thing to exist. So occasionally I'll drop into some of like the movies. Like I remember when the Battle for the Gods movie came out, because that was the first time in a while that a Dragon Ball anything had happened. I watched that and really enjoyed it, but I didn't continue on with the other movies. And I didn't watch like Super or anything like that. But any time that like someone talks about Dragon Ball stuff, I realize like how much I've retained from it. Like it's not one of those things that dissipated the longer away I was. I was sort of like, this stuff really imprinted on me. Like I remember so many details, and like the past couple of days I've just sort of thrown on some random episodes just, you know, just because this has inspired me to do it. And it is like, God, I remember so much more of the show than I thought. And I don't know that I would ever want to like do a full rewatch of all of it, because there are certain stretches that aren't very good and are a little bit insufferable, I think, at certain points. But like, I just like, you know, I watched the last couple episodes of like the Cell Saga last night because I remember those so distinctly, and it really was just sort of like a warm hug with it, you know, with Gohan obliterating Cell to the cellular level, literally. Like it's just so much cool stuff in it. I also did watch the Dragon Ball superhero movie finally. That was like a big hit in the US and really, really enjoyed it a lot. So I don't know. At this point, I'm very casual, and I don't know that I revisit it often, but I still have a huge affinity for it, for sure.
Here comes trouble. See the show the Wall Street Journal calls a huge cartoon hit. Who's laughing now? Cartoon Network has a new #1 show.
Mr. Popo and I are both very pleased with the progress you have made here.
From this point on, there's no looking back. All right, bootcamp is about to begin. Bring it on. Critics agree. Quality speaks for itself. Dragon Ball Z. Who you with? The time has come.
I know, Bubbles. Yes, I can feel it too.
Toonami's got new Dragon Ball.
Bring it on!
Frieza, Super Saiyans, Trunks, and more. 77 episodes never before seen in America.
Now don't expect me to go easy on you.
Dragon Ball Z today at 5. Things will never be the same.
One of the things that I think is really interesting, and for listeners who maybe aren't super familiar with DBZ or don't know the workings of it, and I didn't know some of this stuff, I think that like a lot of the stuff we're talking about is based in like the way that it was presented to us as a Western audience through the dub, and the history of Dragon Ball Z as a dub is so fascinating and so weird. There's so many different versions of the dub that exist that you could theoretically watch right now. And I think like when you see the timeline of it, it really puts into perspective of like why our generation like kind of fell in love with it when we did, I think, because, and I'll credit like Reddit and the DBZ wiki break this stuff down really, really well, because it's like bizarrely way more complicated than you would ever imagine. So like what we watched on Toonami in the 2000s wasn't actually the original iteration of Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z. Like, I feel like we thought that was probably the first time it ever hit the States, but it wasn't. Dragon Ball has been floating around in the United States since 1995, when the Ocean Group, which is this very popular, successful Vancouver group of voice actors, they initially dubbed the original Dragon Ball anime, the first 13 episodes of it, for syndication in 1995. But I don't think the series did very well. Like, I think, like you were saying, like, Dragon Ball was sort of weird early on, weirder than I think DBZ is to American audiences comparatively, so it was harder for people to get into it. So that series was put on hold. In 1996, Funimation was sort of like, okay, but like this DBZ one looks kind of interesting. The sequel looks interesting. Why don't we just dub that instead? So they collaborated with Saban, famous for stuff like Power Rangers, to dub the first 67 episodes plus a movie, which they edited and condensed to 2 seasons of 56 episodes of Dragon Ball Z. And that was with this same Ocean Group from Vancouver. Again, to air in syndication. They made a new score by Ron Wasserman, who of Power Rangers score fame. So they did that for like the first 56 episodes. And then Saban was like, actually, we want to work exclusively with Fox Kids because that's working out for us. So we're not going to do the syndication bullshit anymore. And the dub just abruptly ends like in, I think, 97, I think. So then Funimation's like, well, we do still want to do something with Dragon Ball because it's so popular in Japan. We feel like still, even though this doesn't seem to be working out amazingly here, we still feel like we can make it work. So that's when Funimation produces the dub that we all know and love, which is like the in-house Toonami dub that was produced by Funimation. So in 1999, that's when Funimation starts producing the new episodes of Dragon Ball Z for them, starting from episode 57 onwards. However, they do this with their own in-house, cheaper, non-union actors from Texas instead. So basically, Toonami would be showing reruns of these first 2 seasons in 1998 with these original Canadian voice actors for like a full year, gets people into it. It is very successful. And then you immediately are going to jump to episode 57, which I feel like is like starting with the Frieza saga or something like that, maybe around there. Suddenly the voice actors all change. It's a completely different production. Like, it just sounds different. And this dub contains a brand new score by Bruce Faulconer, which is the score that I think we probably are very familiar with. Like, I still have that score of the electric guitar and the synth sounds and the techno beats like imprinted in my head still. So that's the one that everyone's most familiar with, to the point that this cast and crew also goes back, redubs all of Dragon Ball and that first batch of Dragon Ball Z. That's happening through 2002 through 2005. So if you're like me and you got into DBZ late, it's perfect because now they're re-airing the original episodes that originally aired years ago, but with the cast that I would be familiar with now, which I think also helps grow the audience even more, even if you drop into the show late.
That is absolutely wild, Derek.
If persistence was a word, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, that's so smart.
Yeah. I mean, and it worked out. Like, it's sort of like people knew that this could work. And it's like, we've got this great pop property that is so popular in Japan. It has to work in America. And it took them years. It took them like 10 years almost. But they eventually figured out how to make it marketable to U.S. audiences.
Well, and what's shocking to me is that, Derek, you mentioned that the voice actors changed, but I need to impress upon everyone, like, so I accidentally watched the wrong version. I texted Derek and I was like, I don't think I have the right version of this. So I got the old actors moving forward, right? You're going to talk about...
Oh, yeah, I'm not done. There's more dub stuff to talk about.
Sorry,
but,
okay.
Yeah.
Just Piccolo in particular, vastly different voice, like unwatchably different to switch version to version.
Yeah. Yeah. So you might be listening and being like, well, hold on. I thought you said that they stopped dubbing episode 56, but this episode that y'all are talking about, which you haven't even name dropped yet, this episode that y'all are talking about is like in the hundreds, right? Well, that's because that Ocean group, which is sometimes known as the Westwood dub, they also were like, and in the year 2000, got a deal with the European rights holders to create an alternate English dub for international markets, which means that these original Canadian voice actors who started dubbing the first 56 episodes of Dragon Ball Z then were able to come back and dub the latter half of the show, starting with episode 108, specifically for all English-speaking audience outside of the US, simultaneously with the American Texas-based Funimation dub, which means that there's a whole other English dub that exists out there of Dragon Ball Z that if you're like David and live in Spain, you might watch that dub instead of the English dub that we're all familiar with, that we grew up with on Toonami.
No idea. Like, very, very frequently when I watch anything streaming, I just connect to the VPN and I pretend I'm in Dallas. And I just neglected to do that and watched this like 2 or 3 times, took the notes, and then was like, why is this episode short? Because they're also like 4 minutes shorter than whatever ran in the normal version. And so I did go to Texas and then watched the actual version that you all grew up with and are very familiar with. Mm-hmm. And it was a wildly different experience.
Yeah. Except here's the thing, David. It's not really the version that we grew up with, because what's on Crunchyroll right now and which you can access legally doesn't have the Bruce Faulconer score that aired on Toonami. It has the original Japanese music is the thing. So, and the thing is the Bruce Faulconer score, which like that was a thing that you can get on like the DVD sets, the Orange Brick DVD sets that came out in the 2000. You can still get those then, but I don't even think those are in print anymore. Like if you want to stream this or any Blu-rays or whatever, you're only going to get the Japanese score, not the one that we all actually grew up with that might be imprinted in our brains. And people can argue whether or not one is better than the other. Like, doesn't matter. It is so weird that like I can't watch the version of the show that I actually grew up with necessarily unless I look it up illegally, which is very strange. So, David, you still haven't seen this show in the way that we watched it growing up, actually.
Wow.
Yeah. And what's even weirder, too, what annoys me is that on Crunchyroll, and I think also probably on the Blu-rays, the themes, so like there's a Japanese version of the theme song where it has a Japanese song that's a banger, and Also, we grew up with the English version. They created their own rock song, the Rock the Dragon theme song that you might be familiar with. But like, if you watch the English dub on Crunchyroll, like if you watch the Japanese version, it has the Japanese theme song. It's fine. If you watch the English dub, even though it keeps the Japanese score, they changed the theme song, not to the English theme song, but to this like generic rock music that they just came up with for some reason.
Oh.
It's so weird. It's
Wow,
so
this
weird.
is an onion. There's just so much here.
It's got to be a rights. It's got to be a rights issue.
It's got to be like Rock the Dragon must be tied up somewhere else, I guess.
Yeah.
And is that Dragon Ball Z, and there's all sorts of other things? Okay,
Yeah.
great. I did watch that on YouTube.
Yeah.
That seemed to be legal to show on YouTube.
Yeah. So like,
Wow.
in conclusion, for just this one episode that we're talking about, if you're an English speaker, depending on where you are, how you're watching, like what DVDs you own, you can be watching this one single episode in 4 different versions, either the original Japanese, the Funimation dub with the Bruce Faulconer music that we know that aired on Toonami, or what you see on Crunchyroll, which is the Funimation dub with the original Japanese music, or with the Westwood dub with the Japanese music that you would watch if you were from anywhere but the US. And that's not even taking into account, like, this episode wasn't adapted into Dragon Ball Z Kai. This wasn't done with the original Saban music. If you watch a different episode, there might be, like, 4 other versions of that episode you could potentially accidentally watch instead. Like, it's so weird.
Wow.
This is like when with artists do what they do now is where they're like, oh, this is the original version. Here's the clean version. Here's the dubstep. Here's the remix. Here's the house music. Here's the country version. Like, here's the acapella. It's like, bro, we don't need all these. We get it. We understand.
Right.
Few media that we have discussed have felt more inaccessible than I feel about this show at this moment, because I feel like no matter what I do, I'm going to experience this the wrong way somehow.
That's the thing, is there's no wrong way for it, though, is because everybody got into it differently. Because there's plenty of people, I think, now who have gotten into it after the big wave of the 2000s in the US, who only know either only the Japanese or only know what they're watching on Crunchyroll right now, right? Like, there's friends of mine, like Doug, my other co-host, I know has been watching through Dragon Ball, and I think started Dragon Ball Z. Like, he didn't really watch it before, so his only exposure is going to be what's on Crunchyroll, which is not the same as what we grew up with. But a lot of people say that what we grew up with was garbage and don't like the Bruce Faulconer track, even though I have a lot of affinity for it, you know? So, like, it all depends on who you are at this point.
And sorry to put you on the spot, but do you have any sense of why Faulconer did a different score? Was it to like get kids excited about Dragon Ball? Was it a rights thing?
That was really common with anime in the 90s and 2000s. Okay. A lot, especially ones that were aimed at kids, because I think that a lot of Japanese music a lot of Japanese music in action shows especially was not considered by Western audiences to like be appealing to Western kids in the same way. Like, there's if you watch like 90s tokusatsu and anime, you'll hear a lot of music that almost sounds like kind of 70s in some way, just because of the type of music they produce, a lot of horns and stuff. In America, obviously, it's sort of like we love our electric guitars and our like synth and stuff like that by that point. It's like Digimon, Pokemon, like stuff like that always had their scores changed. And sometimes they'll use library tracks. Sometimes they'll get a new one produced. And it also gives them an opportunity to like create English songs that they can release on CD or something later, you know, new theme songs for kids to sing. So,
and the good news is now is that they don't even do that anymore. Like now, if you know, an anime comes from the East over there and it comes over here, they don't even touch it. Cause like, now we're like, oh no, these are slaps. These are really good songs, and I can put this on a playlist today, and I would listen to this on my way into work. So I think it was just like a 90s kind of ego type of thing. I'm gonna be honest.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of interesting things that you could. There's a lot of essays that could be written about the way that anime was imported into America. And it's like some stuff, it's like, obviously it was a net negative because they're trying to sanitize another culture. But at the same time, if you are like me, like a kid that was growing up out in the middle of nowhere that had no exposure to any type of culture, I'm not gonna like, it is going to be that immediately makes it harder for you to get over that hump of engaging with something new. And I do think that there was a lot of smart thoughts from a marketing perspective of how to make these shows from another culture that these kids have never been exposed to, like making it slightly more accessible to them so that eventually maybe they will be more accepting to the weirder side of things, you know?
Yeah.
Wow. This is, I'm just, my head's still spinning about all this, just truly and honestly. Like, it is just so wild. And then I start to think about all the like quasi xenophobia and the marketing that you're talking about. Like
Right.
every video game that the three of us saw as young boys
Right.
was like a mean Kirby. Like Kirby is never mean, but like everything in the US is like evil Kirby is going to come and get you and eat your dreams.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very interesting. Obviously, I think there's a lot of pros and cons to like this sort of era of Japanese export stuff is what it comes down to. And like, I don't know that I would have gotten into Dragon Ball Z if they didn't make it feel a little more American through the way that they dubbed it and marketed it and scored it. You know, it's like, I get it. Like, I'm glad that we're not really in that place anymore where people are just so much more open and things are so much more accessible to be seeing it in the way that it was meant to be seen. But I understand why that maybe needed to happen in the 90s and the 2000s, especially, you know? Yeah. Well, David, I'll help center you a little bit because we'll talk about, let's hone in on the specific episode we're talking about.
I love this episode. I loved this episode so very much. I actually don't need any more Dragon Ball Z in my life. This is my favorite thing that we've done. We are talking about the 125th episode of the series, titled Goku's Ordeal. The Japanese title translates to License Mastery, Goku's Newest Trial. The original air date in Japan was January 22nd, 1992, and it first aired in the United States on September 13th, 2000, and aired on Cartoon Network's Toonami. The synopsis per IMDb, God bless our friends. Chi-Chi forces Goku and Piccolo to learn how to drive.
A+. I love it. That's the episode.
It's here.
Nothing else.
That is exactly what we are doing. And we're talking about it because of the recent passing of Akira Toriyama, which Derek has already mentioned, was the creator and credited with writing this episode.
Yes. Legendary guy. Stik, do you have experience with other Toriyama stuff, or is this sort of the main Toriyama thing that you're into?
I mean, the number one is obviously Chrono Trigger.
Yes.
You know, that art style. You know, RPGs, another thing that's, you know, came from Japan that, you know, is kind of hard to introduce to Western, you know, audiences. But that art style is just so inviting, you know, and then you combine that with the elements and it just, you know, his art style is just so iconic. When you see his style, you know it's him.
Right.
So you don't even have to second guess it, right? Which is crazy because on PlayStation 1, there was this game called To Ball Number 1. And I played that game for years, like when I had the PlayStation. Just played it, and it didn't click until he passed away that was his art style.
Wow.
And I go back and I look at it, and I'm like, yo, that is why I love this game. Because it felt so familiar to me. And I was able to and the game was just fire itself, by the way.
Yeah.
But it was just so inviting because I was like, oh, I love the way these characters look. It was cel-shaded. It was so great. So it's just crazy to see that even when I wasn't even aware that he was impacting me, he was still doing it.
I love that so much.
That is great.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Chrono Trigger is also like, I think Chrono Trigger, I have more love for that game than I do Dragon Ball stuff, honestly. Like, I have more affinity towards that. But I mean, yeah, I agree with you. Like, it's just like that style is so evocative and so specific. And like, as much as other anime has obviously been inspired by his style, like, still somehow no one does it like him. And I don't even really know how to explain what it is, but it always just looks like him in every iteration, whether you're playing Chrono Trigger or Dragon Quest or Blue Dragon, like all those things. It's sort of like, they're all very different. I mean, all of them kind of have dragons in them, but like they're all pretty, still at the same time, pretty different in many ways. And yet still always have that particular flavor that like he has ever been able to like really bring. It's so interesting.
Yeah, and it makes sense even if you're familiar with Chrono Trigger more from the sprite work than the character designs, which informed the sprite work. But like it's all there. There's humanoid people, or there's animal humanoids. There's people with power. Like it's all there in the same DNA as everything else that Toriyama worked on and what he was inspired by and what he put out into the world.
Even the technology, you know, like the way that Toriyama drew like cars and built like the dome style futuristic looking buildings. Like it's so specific, and they're always so beautifully detailed. Like he clearly like loved mechanical things and cars, but in a very specific way. Like they weren't like you know how a lot of like sometimes the way that cars are drawn, they're drawn to be like sleek and sexy. Like he seemed to be more interested in sort of like almost kind of like a pseudo steampunk kind of angle, where it's sort of like I love having wires exposed, and I want to see all the circuitry and things, like, and I want you to clearly see that there's metal with rivets on it. Like he clearly had an affinity for that stuff, and I do too. Like it's so cool and unique the way that he draw those types of things.
Yeah, he never was afraid to like take steps to do different things, right? Like it seemed like he didn't limit himself. Like he wanted to go beyond and wanted, just like, just the character Goku wanted to go beyond his limits and try to do even more, even bigger stuff, whether it be just adding more hair to a character or trying to make the Super Widow's Peak very fashionable with Vegeta, right? Like he did so many different like risks and takes that you don't see in other shows.
Yeah.
And then the way he would design the women on the show, and he was a legend, man. Like just watching the outpouring of support and like, the messages of, remembrance on the timeline at that weekend when he passed away was just, it made me feel great, man. Cause I was like, I'm glad he's getting his flowers. I know he was getting it while he was alive, but just watching that outpour was like, it was very good.
Yeah. It was such a weird experience learning that he died, because it was shocking at first, obviously. Like he was still pretty young, but like the response to it didn't feel sad at a certain point, because it was just sort of like, oh, this is giving people a reason to celebrate this like legendary artist in a way that no one has ever really celebrated him. But like people have celebrated him, but like people like I don't sit there talking about Toriyama and his impact on me like ever, and that inspired me to just be like, here's all the things that he has done that I love that have like made an impact on me and influenced me and influenced like future things that I've done, like and that's the trademark of an amazing artist, that like it can inspire so many different people in so many different ways from so many different things that he's made too. Not everyone was talking about Dragon Ball. Plenty of people were also talking about Dragon Quest and Chrono Trigger and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really beautiful.
But we are here talking about Dragon Ball, and so I think it would be like worth and important to say that like probably one of the most influential manga artists in the genre's history.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, for all the people who say that Dragon Ball Z was their first anime, I wouldn't be surprised if Dragon Ball was a lot of people's first manga too, Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how he got started in all of this, is as a manga artist. And it actually wasn't like his boyhood dream. He was exposed to a manga when he was a child, and thought, this is interesting, but he went and got a job, like a sad, boring job, the way many of us have to get sad, boring jobs. And so he worked for this advertising agency, but in 1978, Toriyama attempted to submit his work to an amateur manga contest and eventually caught the eye of Kazuhiko Torishima, who would eventually be his editor. And he submitted this Star Wars parody, Mysterious Rainjack. And I put the cover into the show notes for Derek. It is fucking gorgeous, but it is Star Wars. Like there is a C-3PO on here. There is an R2-D2. Luke and Leia are on this. And his editor was like, this is too close to being real. You can't submit this. Invited him to submit again. And by 1980, Toriyama's first hit series, Dr. Slump, was featured in Weekly Shonen Jump. And this story followed the adventures of a perverted professor and his small, super strong android, Arielle.
Which perverted professors and super strong androids, so part and parcel to Dragon Ball Z as well.
He always has that in the shows, man. Yeah. It's always there.
Yeah.
And then I should have done the research on this, but I'm just now unlocking a memory that probably the first anime that I was exposed to was Project Eiko, which is about like a super sexy android lady.
Sure.
And I didn't even like do the math. Did that come out after this? Did it come out before it? I didn't even look into it. So
yeah. The Star Wars thing is an interesting connection too, because that's another thing that it's like, oh yeah, of course he would like Star Wars, because it's like that's the fusion of technology, science fiction, and fantasy and magic that Toriyama loves in all of his stuff, But But yeah, I mean, I think I'm not really super familiar with Dr. Slump. I've seen a lot of it now because of people posting about him and posting from like the anime adaptation and stuff. I'm not super familiar with it, but I think, he wanted to end the series. Publisher would only allow him to end that if he created something else. So that's why he's like, okay, I guess there was some one shots, or maybe I'll make a 2-part story called Dragon Boy in 1983, which then becomes Dragon Ball in 84 through 1995, runs for 519 chapters. And that's what Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z are both adapted from. And it's just very funny that like, I feel like there's multiple stories of Toriyama's like best creations just coming from a little bit of like laziness of like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do Dr. Slump anymore. Guess I'll create the biggest Japanese franchise ever made. I don't want to color black into these Saiyans' hairs anymore. Guess I'll create the concept of a Super Saiyan, one of the most like well-known and like exciting and popular things to ever happen in the entire Dragon Ball franchise.
Wow.
Yeah. And you know what the funny thing is? Sometimes he forgets stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The funniest thing he's ever forgotten is there's a character in the early Dragon Ball Z called Launch. And she's a girl, she's a woman who, when she sneezes, her hair changes yellow and she becomes a gun-toting maniac. She's like in the first, like, I don't even know how many first few episodes she is, but she's there.
She's in Dragon Ball, I think. I think she's a major character in Dragon Ball, right?
Dragon Ball, yes.
And then Dragon Ball Z, she's in like 2 episodes or something and then disappears and is never mentioned.
And then she just vanishes forever. And then like people ask like what happened? Like, oh, I just forgot about it. Like, what? How do you forget about a girl who just changed personalities from sneezes? That's so weird. But you got to think he's done so much. Yeah. It's like it's hard to probably keep up with so many different characters.
One of my favorite things that I was reading is I'd watched the superhero movie, and one of the things I read is sort of like people were like, why is it called Dragon Ball Super : superhero? That's a little redundant. And he was like, oh, I forgot the show is called Dragon Ball Super. I forgot. I forgot that word would show up twice.
Wow. Absolute king. Absolute king.
I fucking love it so much.
No notes. No notes. I'm obsessed about this whole this whole thing of like, I don't want to write Dr. Slump anymore, and so I'll end up creating the most important cultural export of my country for 10 years. It's like one day I would come to work and be like, I don't want to work on Excel anymore. Better make like the Mona Lisa. Like, it's just wild to me. It is so weird to think about.
Yeah. Fucking legend, man.
Wow. I do want to say real quickly on Toriyama, after the news of his passing became public, in the Reuters article about it, the chief cabinet secretary of Japan was quoted saying that Toriyama was one of the most influential exporters of Japan's soft power in our history. And that is like, I guess it was a very impactful thing to have said about a person from the country.
Yeah. Well, the reason we chose this episode.
Right. There is a gimmick here.
Yeah. But I think what's interesting, the gimmick I think is so tied into what this show is more than a lot of other ones are, because it's less like creators wanted to do a special episode so much as like just the product of what making the show was. Because like a lot of anime, Dragon Ball Z, obviously based on a manga. That's been a thing, part of Japanese culture for a very long time. Dragon Ball is nothing different from that, right? But also like a lot of other anime, the manga and anime would sort of be produced relatively simultaneously. Even if the manga started, a ways before, like TV production is often a little bit faster than manga production is because it's one person writing and drawing everything. And it's a very taxing, hard job. So a lot of times, manga would kind of either like fall behind, the anime would get caught up. And so anime would have to sort of produce like filler episodes in order to like that are essentially things that either stretch out or expand on or add stuff that wasn't from the manga to give some buffer time for the manga to get a little bit more ahead. So then the anime can then adapt what the manga is doing. So Dragon Ball Z, it's sort of like both famous and infamous for this, I think, because it has like, it runs the gamut of fun to bad filler. Like I think the worst is like the filler that has to happen during like really heavily serialized or high stakes parts of the story where you can't just pivot if like the world's imploding, right? So you'll have these infamous cases of characters like powering up and screaming for a long time or just having a conversation during a battle. The example is like when Frieza is like, this planet will blow up in 5 minutes, and then it takes 8 episodes for those 5 minutes to go by.
What? I'm obsessed with that.
And
Actually,
to
I
be
love
fair,
that.
he's selling it short. It's not 8. It's a lot more than that. That's where my trust issues actually started as a young kid. Was when Frieza told me that there was 5 minutes and it was gonna explode. I'm like, oh cool, the series of the season and then this episode. Nah, we're gonna go for the next 50. Like, yo, what are we doing?
No, I love this.
Yeah.
This is giving me passions. We have to wait
This
till
is the
Sweet
longest
Weeks.
5 minutes I've ever experienced in my entire life.
No, it's great. It's great because then mom says, when are you ready for dinner? And you can just say 5 minutes and then you just wait till you're a grown ass man. Like, seriously, this is, no, Derek, you said it's the worst. I think that's the best, but only talking about it now. I think actually living through it would have been terrible.
Yeah, when you have to watch these episodes, like I think they probably were running like 5 days a week or something by that point. But like when you're watching them, you know, like day by day, maybe week to week, depending on the time period, like that's excruciating, you know. But then you also have versions where like they just concoct a different arc, right? Like I mentioned the Garlic Jr. saga. I don't know if it's a particularly like beloved one or anything, but it also wasn't a waste of time. They like found characters from an earlier movie and basically did a sequel to that movie with supporting cast while Goku wasn't around. And so you get to spotlight some supporting cast members, revisit, you know, a villain that was previously kind of forgotten about, right? So like that's a fine example. The only thing that makes it filler is just that it didn't take place in the manga. And then you kind of have the interesting kind of more fun in between example, which is this episode where it happens at the perfect time where it's like in between storylines, like there isn't a high stakes thing happening. Like, you know that this android stuff is coming, but we're not there yet. Seems like a perfect time to take a rest. So this episode is just a fun comedic side story, very little action. It's very much more like earlier Dragon Ball than it is Dragon Ball Z. It's just like a standalone breather episode. That's like your last little bit of rest before the more serious android stuff happens after that is essentially all it is.
Yeah. Spoiler alert from when we get to talking about the episode. I was obsessed with this last time on sequence that was like, what would you do if you heard that androids were coming to destroy your town? Like, I was like, wow, the stakes could not be higher. And then it was nothing. It was that A+, chef's kiss, no notes.
Yeah. I think that makes the episode better.
It makes it so much better. Filler is one of those terms that I feel like gets used with a lot of negative value assigned to it. So I was trying to do some research on understanding filler. Obviously, Derek did a better job, but I did navigate my way to animefillerlist.com that looks at every anime and gives it a numerical score or percentage of how many episodes are filler. This was considered low with only 13%. That's 38 of the 291 episodes of Dragon Ball Z.
That's shocking.
It's funny because a lot of people would say this, you know, before like, you know, Naruto and stuff like that this was one of the bigger filler, you know, anime. Like people would complain about certain say like, oh, because the thing about filler is filler isn't bad unless it's bad timing.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, don't have me in the middle of a battle and be like, remember that time back in 3 years ago? No, I don't want to talk about that right now.
I love that. I love that
Like
so
there's an energy beam struggle happening right now. Why are we talking about this? We don't have to do that.
Yeah.
So it's really about timing. Like, you know, you can deal with your typical beach episode or, you know, your family vacation episode randomly, but just don't put it in the middle of a death beam struggle. You know,
Yeah.
that's really the key. That's crazy.
It's interesting because I think that like it sort of affected the way that like Westerners I think talk about TV in general, and it's sort of like confusing a standalone episode with filler, because I do think filler in anime, like the reason it's called filler is for a very specific technical reason, in that they literally needed to fill time and space because of the adaptation between manga and anime. And it does make sense. And to your point, Stik, like, yeah, you would have fun episodes, or you would have just like, oh, this is literally filler. Nothing is happening on screen other than someone yelling and powering up for 22 minutes. Like, you know, like it makes sense. And then I think a lot of like, you know, Western American audiences will sometimes just be like, oh, this didn't have like an impact on the ongoing plot, therefore it's filler, when it really was just like an episode hanging out with a character and learning about a character or learning about the world or something. And it's like, it's not the same thing though. Like that's not, and it's not being necessarily being, and there are even occasions I think in like Western TV where like things are produced to like take up a spot because they ran out of money somewhere or something like that. Like you can blur the lines of like what filler is and what it's applied to, but like the negative connotation where like anything that is filler is blanket bad, like that's just flat out wrong, because it absolutely depends on exactly what it means to be filler and how it's being used and what story is being told with it, you know?
I'm kind of obsessed with Stik's idea though, that to have like a filler episode in the middle of a climactic battle. Like every time I go Super Saiyan, I have to have a clip show run through my mind.
Okay, David, you literally said that, but I was watching the Cell episodes and I forgot that like the episode before Cell is defeated, it is a beam battle between Gohan and Cell, and then it just goes to being Cell remembering his birth, which becomes a clip show. And for me,
prophetic. I love that.
It kind of works a little bit because it's Cell like reflecting on himself right before his inevitable defeat. But if you are watching all of that in succession, it is sort of like, okay, but hold on. Like, is he going to kill him or not? Like, why are we doing this now? I watched all these episodes already.
Yeah, that's better than what I was envisioning, which is that Cell would then remember every time he got hit by a beam in quick succession, which I think would rock. I think that would be a great a great clip show episode.
Sure. Yeah.
Just a bunch of beams hitting you over and over again.
And also, like, I think it's worth throwing out there because I don't think we mentioned, but like this Dragon Ball Z, it was so popular that like it got re-edited and re-released as Dragon Ball Z Kai, which was like a condensed version of the show that was supposedly remastered, though people complain about the actual visual quality of it and stuff. But
I saw that.
That basically was the idea was that it eliminated a lot of the filler. So like this episode is not present in Dragon Ball Z Kai. And so I think that like that's lends to the conversation though, because like David, you're like, I love this episode. It's a bummer that it's missing from it. So it makes sense that it would be missing from a fillerless version of the show that's shorter and potentially more accessible to audiences, but then you lose a lot of just like the fun comedy stuff as well if you're cutting it out, you know. So it's a weird sort of balance that you have to have with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you know where it's not missing is from the open world action role playing game Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, which I watched a long play. I don't know what LP stands for. And it was used to introduce a racing mini game into the open world adventure that Goku goes on. In it's pretty much every plot beat that we're about to go over, except Goku is a lot more competent with a car. Makes sense because he's the player character, so you can't randomly hit things and explode them. And the only reason I said this has to be discussed is that I watched 40 minutes of this, and man, I listened to 38 minutes of complaint about filler from this person who was streaming their thoughts. They had a lot of them about this episode, twice as long as the episode.
It's so weird. It's funny because this is a good filler. I think this is
love this
widely
episode.
Regarded by many places as being the best filler episode. Sean Schemmel, who voices Goku, says this is one of his favorite episodes of all time. Like, I think people generally, we'll see how we all feel in the conversation we're talking about it, but people generally are positive on this episode, or at least recognize that it's a fun one and not a bad one, you know? So that's really annoying to like use this episode as a as a jumping off point.
There are other examples to do this.
Yeah.
Well, then let's get into this episode of Dragon Ball Z Goku's Ordeal. We do get opening credits right off the bat, and then we get this last time on that I've already talked about. Trunks is there telling Goku that there are androids coming in 3 years. Vegeta's been training as hard as ever to achieve the status of Super Saiyan. Piccolo, Goku, and Gohan have also been training, and that's like how we set up the narrative arc of the episode. Except then we're following Chi-Chi, who is bringing groceries home, but she is being chased by a wild boar, and capital W wild on this boar. This boar looks sick as hell.
I love the idea of an episode smash cut to a boar and Chi-Chi running from it. It's also beautifully animated. It looks so good.
Yeah, it's a great chase scene. I think it's kind of ridiculous though. Chi-Chi, if you don't know, is from a wealthy family. So I just think it's walking to a grocery store is interesting.
It's
whether at any time.
The thing about this episode, I think for me, makes it even funnier. The entire concept of this episode makes no fucking sense. At all.
No sense.
No.
Chi-Chi, you could get your driver's license and drive a car. Chi-Chi knows many people who can fly. Also, David, you wouldn't know this, but there's a cloud called Nimbus that Goku used to fly on before he learned to fly. And I'm pretty sure in Dragon Ball, Chi-Chi also flew on it. So Chi-Chi could literally be riding a cloud to the grocery store and back right now.
And not for nothing, don't we own a pet dragon who flies that later Gohan takes to the racetrack?
That's in the episode.
There's just multiple options that could have avoided this entire sequence.
Anyway,
I think that makes the episode funnier because it truly is almost like it's calling its shot. Like, look, we're telling you off the bat, none of this makes any sense or matters. Just have a little fun with it. It's fine, Yeah,
that's great. That's great. I do love that. She does stop just short of a cliff and the boar runs off it. And in the two versions that I watched, whichever version had, I assume the original soundtrack had hilarious sound effects here of the boar, like Wile E. Coyote sound effects, which were fantastic. I don't know if you had that or not. See, again, this is where I'm I don't even know what version I was listening to at any point in time.
Yeah, it's fine. Whatever.
Oh, it's great. And I just, again, have to talk about how great this boar looks. I was just obsessed with it. I still framed it it's just a beautiful, beautiful shot, but it was terrifying. She looked really scared.
Mm-hmm.
I would be.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would.
Yeah.
I would also be scared. Scared is the definite reaction I would have to that, and not horny.
Oh boy!
Listen, it's a big boar. I will also say we didn't talk about the Toriyama. Toriyama draws a beautiful big man. Period. End of story.
Yeah.
Oh no, he's good at
that. Whether muscles or tummy, he's got it. He's got a big dude.
Absolutely, he's so good at Ox King. Mwah, amazing, perfect.
Yes.
What a guy. But also, if we doubling down on the hilarity of the setup of the recap to Chi-Chi running from a boar, then it's we're not even cutting to the Z Fighters training or whatever. It's androids are coming in a few years, so of course Goku is just lying on the grass watching clouds while Gohan is swimming.
That cloud looks like somebody I know. I'll be. It's him. It's Master Roshi. Except his nose is a bit bigger. And that cloud looks like Piccolo. Ew, scary.
Hey, Dad! Look what I caught!
Oh, that sure is a big fish. Your mom will be proud of you.
Do you think we can have it for dinner?
Sure we can.
Oh, fish again? That's all we've had for 2 weeks straight.
It's their roles are reversed. Gohan should be staring up at the clouds, looking at clouds like a regular child, and Goku should be fishing.
Yeah,
but no, it's the big man child looking at Master Roshi and Piccolo. He's ridiculous.
It's so funny.
Yeah, I don't know when to ask this question, but Goku Himbo was something that I definitely needed an answer from both of you on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, great. I love that.
He's a fucking idiot. He's so stupid. He's the dumbest person on earth. That's what makes it charming.
Ideal man, then. Ideal.
You can't be strong and smart, apparently. So,
well, as Derek says, Gohan gets a giant fish out of the river. That's what they're going to have for dinner. We get a nice inner monologue from Piccolo that he's tired of having fish.
I love that Piccolo is just living with them and having dinner with them every night at this point.
He's like that friend that doesn't know when to leave, and he's like, "Yeah, I guess I'll just stay for dinner again."
And the missus is pissed. Chi-Chi does not care for this.
The funniest part about it is Piccolo's Namekian and doesn't have to eat, so he's torturing himself.
That's so true.
You don't have to eat this food, bro. All you need is water. What? Why are you doing this to yourself?
That makes Chi-Chi's indignation even better, to be like, you're back for fucking dinner and you don't even eat? What the hell? Chi-Chi does continue to walk home. She does eventually get there, but not before seeing a couple who are the happiest grocery shoppers who have ever been in all their life, who are driving home in their beautiful hover car. And she wistfully says, I wish I had one of those.
Does she mean a car or a husband that understands?
That she can spend time with. Who's not either spending all of his life off world or dead or training.
Oh, no.
Oh, I love Dragon Ball. So Goku and Gohan, when they show up back at home, they just strip off their sweaty clothes, throw them on the kitchen table where food's gonna be, and they're just like, go ahead and clean them. We're gonna like take a bath. And she's like, no, fuck all of this. Fuck all the way off.
P.U. Come on, Gohan. Let's go take a bath.
Ugh, my clothes smell like fish.
Hey, Chi-Chi, could you give these clothes a wash? Easy on the starch, okay? We worked up quite a sweat today.
Hold it right there! Now, let me get this straight. You expect me to get dinner ready and wash your clothes while you and Gohan relax in a nice hot bath? Well, that's not gonna happen, mister. Do you even care what kind of day I had? I don't know what I liked better, being chased halfway home by a wild boar or walking the rest of the way on my tired, aching feet!
Although this would have been a great opportunity to be like, help around the house, Goku and Gohan. Instead, she's sort of like, you need to get your driver's license because I want a fucking car, but I don't want to drive it. I want you to drive me around. Actually,
Queen.
maybe that's why she doesn't just get the driver's license herself. Maybe it's a power move because she's like, I'm too good to do the driving. Like, I already do enough that I shouldn't even have to drive the car. You should be driving me places. And then they're forced to spend more time with her.
That's smart.
Mm-hmm.
That's a smart move.
I like that read, Derek. I think that this all is a power thing for Chi-Chi. She needs to have power somewhere.
Yeah.
She can't go Super Saiyan, but she can control whether or not they eat. We then cut to driving school. So like we're moving along. It's great. Goku and Piccolo are dressed in their street clothes. And this is when I fell in love with our bro, Piccolo.
The greatest fit of all time is Piccolo in that amazing outfit.
Oh my God.
It's so good.
I just couldn't stop looking at it. It's amazing because he's dressed normally in these like fighting robe. I guess I just associate them with Piccolo's fighting robes because it's what he's always in. Mm-hmm. But to see him in street clothes with like a layered look and bright colors was such a treat and a dream.
Backwards hat, like, oh my God, so good.
This is also where, and this y'all might know this, but this is where we also the black community were like, Piccolo is black. Because he could have worn that hat forward, but he knew to throw it backwards. Got the fresh fit, the fresh kicks. Piccolo is definitely black in the black community.
Yeah.
Okay. I also read that and believed that, but I didn't know if that's because I dated guys who were into Dragon Ball and they were like, told me that Piccolo was black.
Yeah.
It's a community thing, man.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. I love any time that like animated characters who are normally in one set of clothes change to a different set of clothes. But I feel like in like Dragon Ball stuff, like it's a whole other level because Toriyama loves changing their outfits and like, there's aren't often opportunities for Dragon Ball characters to be not in like fighting clothes, but every time that they ever are in casual clothes at all, it's sort of like, what's the coolest fit we could put them in? And it's like the most striking and memorable one. And like the outfits, like Piccolo is like the A+ like god tier example, but even like Goku's outfit is like so memorable,
Yeah. Oh, this 90s button down is giving. It is perfect. He could walk into a Taco Bell and fit right in Southern California. It is great.
Yeah.
What is Goku's order at Taco Bell? Let's call it.
Oh my God. I mean, he's a chalupa man, right? Like I would have to assume he just needs a little bit of crunch, and something to fill him up.
I think he likes Mexican pizzas.
The forbidden Mexican pizza.
But either way, he's getting a lot.
Right. No, yeah.
He's buying
sure.
like $100 worth of food from Taco Bell.
Yeah. So wait, Stik, then
sure.
do you assert that he's like 100 taco man because he can get them for $1 each and he just needs like bang for his buck?
Yeah. Easily. Okay. I also think it's funny. We didn't talk about how like Piccolo got dragged into this all of a sudden.
Oh yeah.
Goku was attacked by his wife, and it's just like, yo, he doesn't have a license either. And Piccolo's like, yo, leave me out of this.
It's so funny that he like.
And then somehow she actually goes. How did she convince him to go?
Yeah. It's Piccolo was so funny this episode because he literally does not need to be involved in any of this. And it's like, I feel like maybe you kind of actually do want to get your driver's license and you just don't want to admit it because he's like really good at it and seems to kind of enjoy the process of driving and is like genuinely disappointed when he doesn't get it at the end of the episode. Like, I think that he was just I think he could use this as an excuse to do it, even though he's pretending like he's not actually interested in it because there's no reason for him to be there otherwise.
Well, out come the driving instructors. For Goku, it's Mr. Yuzuka, and for Piccolo, it's Cynthia. Piccolo gets into his hover car with Cynthia and immediately starts to struggle with his safety belt, which flies in his face. Just again, unnecessarily wonderful humor.
Yeah. Yeah, great physical comedy. And I mean, the pairing of like Piccolo with this lady who's like the most intense, floor it, loves the thrill of the ride lady ever versus Goku with just this like mean, anxious old man who's so delicate.
You have to ask how Cynthia got the job as a driving instructor.
Yeah.
I love Cynthia and I will hear no slander against her.
I mean, like from the jump, like, all right, start the car. And now like the smile on her face as it just shifts, like, oop, shifted the drive. Let's hit it.
Yeah.
Floor to the floor. Come on, man.
You could almost believe like, oh, is the episode about like how she's actually like an evil villain in disguise and is trying to kill them? But it's like, no, she's just like that. That's just her.
She loves going fast. She loves it. She would fit in the Fast and Furious franchise. She would fit in right perfectly. She is fast and furious.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Yuzuka can't even get his door open for Goku.
Of course. I'm still not sure how I got suckered into this in the first place. She's not even my wife.
All right, which one of you is Goku?
Oh, I'm Goku.
Ah, I'll be your driving instructor today. Let's go. Oh, my back!
Hey, mister, are you, all right?
I'll be fine. There, good as gold now.
Hi there. You must be my student. You're Piccolo, aren't you? We're going to start with the basics for your first lesson. I'm going to demonstrate proper driving technique, so please pay attention.
How did I ever let myself get into this mess?
Yeah! Burn rubber!
I totally forgot that we even see like Vegeta in this episode at all. They just cut away just to acknowledge like somebody's training right now. And
somebody's doing his job.
But that's good to know because like that is something that I thought was funny is like the context of this episode is like, okay, they're driving. I know for a fact that the episode previously, as in the recap, told us that Trunks told us that these androids are stronger than anyone you've ever dealt with.
Yeah.
That Frieza person that you took 20 episodes to beat, nothing on them.
Yeah.
So it's like, why, of all the things that you want to do right now, Mr. Train all the time, man, you want to get your driver's license?
That's so funny.
That's how powerful Chi-Chi is. Chi-Chi should fight the androids.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked this training sequence with Vegeta because it was so beautifully animated.
Mm-hmm.
I just really loved watching it. And again, Vegeta is one of those things that I knew had fought Goku. I knew that they then became friends, I guess, or allies in some sort of way.
Allies,
and that trope lives with me, and I love a former rival to friend. Mm-hmm. And I guess Goku's just like a great guy. Everyone wants to hang out with him after he destroys them in battle. And he's been training at 400 times Earth's gravity. I attempted to find a planet that matched this and was unsuccessful.
Love it.
So I don't even have a frame of reference of how much he's training.
It's a lot. That's all we need to know.
Yeah.
Nothing in our solar system is, I guess, my report back.
I do like in that sequence with Vegeta that Bulma's doing the whole cute. I really hate him, but I really like the bad guy, and I want him to know why my last name is Brief Sick.
Yeah.
They have a thing. Do they have a thing? The vibe I got was they had a thing.
Oh, say Bulma and Vegeta?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Look, Dave, you don't care about spoilers. I'm assuming you're never going to watch this again.
No.
Trunks, the guy who told about the androids, is from the future. He is Vegeta and Bulma's son from the future. Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
By the time that the androids get there, Trunks will be there in baby form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah. They don't just have vibes of a thing. They are like full ass canonical endgame couple.
Yeah.
Well, then I'm really happy she gets to fuck because she's a little horny in this scene, and good for her. Good for her.
Yeah.
Get that short king. I love him. I love Vegeta.
All the women in the show get to fuck. Everybody
Oh,
fucks
good.
and has babies in this show. It's pretty wild.
That's good. I'm glad about that.
So back at home, Gohan's wondering like, how's my dad and Piccolo doing? And even though Chi-Chi's like, oh, it's great that you're like studying, Gohan's like, I don't want to study. I want to see my dad take his driver's test because I guess that's the most exciting thing in the world. So he gets Icarus, his purple dragon, who I fucking love. Forget that he even exists half the time, but I love him. Gohan rides him to find Goku. And the fun thing about this scene, I don't think we mentioned it, was that like the idea for this episode is cited as coming from the cover to a manga issue. I don't have it written down exactly which manga number it was, but it was a cover of a manga issue that's just Goku and Piccolo driving a car, and it's kind of funny. That's was sort of like where the idea for this episode came from, was just that image. The drawing in Gohan's book that he's doodling of imagining his dad and Piccolo in the driver's test is basically just that manga cover, essentially, which is a really fun reference.
Yeah, it's a nice drawing too. Well, on the roads outside the driving school, Cynthia is praising Piccolo's driving. I love Piccolo. I love him so much. I love him being like, yeah, I am good. Just absolutely wonderful. But Goku is not doing as well. First, he forgets how to start the car. Then he starts it, but goes in reverse right into a pillar. Then he's driving too fast, causes an accident with another hover car. Eventually, Yuzaka shouts for him to cut the engine, and Goku literally channels power into his hand to chop off the steering wheel. And they are sent flying into a lake.
So good.
Cut the ignition!
Huh?
Cut the ignition!
Okay.
Hurry!
Now what?
I love that that's even like, that's their big martial arts dramatic action moment. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but they do the thing where they like show like the frame like 3 times rapidly as he's screaming. Like, it is just a typical action moment, except it's for him to cut off the steering wheel of the car because he misunderstands what cut the ignition means. It's so funny.
The world's greatest hero, saved millions and billions of lives countless times, cannot drive. It's just ridiculous.
You know,
it's
so many people he killed during this driver's test because he causes so many explosions and so many car crashes.
So many cute little furry animals who are driving these cars are dead. And that's terrible.
Yeah.
As Derek mentioned, Gohan is en route to go view his father. No big deal. We're just get a nice clip of Icarus flying. It did look gorgeous.
Yeah, this episode looks beautiful considering it's
oh my God.
a filler episode, you know.
Yeah.
Every scene. Just two and again, that you say that you forget about Icarus is heartbreaking to me because this dragon is so fucking cool.
It's really cool. I mean, it's just, you know, the show focuses a lot less on the fantasy stuff as it goes along. And like, you know, so you don't see the dinosaurs and the furry people as much the longer the show lasts, you know. So it's kind of nice whenever they get to like make reappearances.
Well, Goku is granted a second try and he floors the car. Cynthia, meanwhile, with Piccolo, is commenting on how slowly he's driving. And then Goku passes them, and it has become a race. Cynthia is delighted, but Yuzaka is terrified. Eventually, both Goku and Piccolo collide with each other, and the cars explode. They save their instructors and slowly float down back to Earth.
So wild. Oh, I forgot about the moment. I think this wasn't this. There's so many times the cars explode and stuff. This wasn't this one. The one right before it, after it cuts the ignition, when they land in the water and the instructor's sort of like, you're not going to get your driver's license for 100 years. And Goku is just talking like, just starts telling about the androids in the future. Like, yeah, but that's too long. The androids are going to be here in 3 years. We got to train. And then it just keeps going down and he's continuing to talk as they sink underwater.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
I know that was kind of a rough start, but how long before I get my license?
Son, at this rate, it'll take you 100 years.
That's too long. I still have to get in shape for a big battle against 2 killer androids, and Chi-Chi's going to kill me.
Yeah, that's very very classic Looney Tunes type of
Yeah.
humor right there.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
And depending on which version you listened to, the water sound either sounded really good or sounded really bad, in just my opinion.
But despite all of again, the thing I find very funny, so many people have died probably. So many cars have been ruined. So many explosions have happened. Like, he's putting people in the hospital left and right. Despite all of this, the instructors are sort of like, I guess we'll give you one last chance to see if you can pass your driver's test. And they do it on a rainy day. Like,
They are behind a car full of children. It's really cute. But then, lightning hits a nearby mountain and causes a rock slide, trapping the school bus full of children. Goku and Piccolo fly out to save them, blasting the falling debris away and rescuing the school bus of children. This is, I mean, it's a long sequence. I have not done it justice, but they are like blasting shit. They're flying. It's the superhero moment of the episode.
Yeah, I had a few things that I thought about this scene. Number one, I think it's funny that we can also have hover cars and just cars with wheels, apparently.
Yeah,
because
I didn't even clock
I was
that.
like, you have to pick one. Like, is it hover for like the rich and the, or is the bus like just regular? I don't know.
yeah.
I just thought it was interesting. Again, the furry children and the human children just hanging out as if that's just regular and normal. It's like, cool. That's cool, I guess. Like, how do you determine, like, it was always interesting. And then just the fact that if I'm the instructors and I just watch you fly out of the car to save a bunch of children, like, why are you here? Like, you don't need to be here. You're flying. You don't need this license.
Yeah.
You wasted 2 days and, like Derek said, killed or hospitalized like hundreds of people for nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. So many things don't make sense, like in the world of Dragon Ball, really, but also this episode specifically. But that's kind of why I love it, because it's just like, who gives a shit kind of thing, Like, it's so stupid. I also don't understand, like, why. Obviously, Goku sees the disaster of the school bus going to be crushed. Why does he crash into Piccolo's car and like total both of their cars? I'm like, my best interpretation is that he's trying to get Piccolo's attention, but I don't think that helps anything. If he just flowed out of the car, Piccolo would have seen that and followed him,
I did not clock that. I did not clock that at all,
man.
but you were absolutely right. Why did they ram into
It
each
doesn't
other?
make any sense.
Huh. Well, in the end, Yuzuka and Cynthia are relieved that they've saved the children, and they aren't even mad that the cars are wrecked, but they assure Piccolo and Goku that they will not be getting their licenses.
And I turned your new convertible into a compact. What a disaster.
Hey, don't sweat it.
You mean you're not going to totally freak out or something?
No way. Not after witnessing that terrific rescue.
Oh, does that mean I might still get my driver's license?
Not a chance. You're a danger to everyone else on the road.
What about me?
Nope.
Then we both failed?
Neither of you passed, but so what? I'd trade my driver's license in a second for a chance to fly.
So would I.
What's Chi-Chi going to say?
Failed the test!
The pair return home to give Chi-Chi the news, and she faints. And that's kind of the wrap up of this storyline, but there's a little more episode left because fast forward 3 years and it's time to go battle the androids. I will say there's a car in front of their house, so I don't know if you're supposed to interpret anything about that. And Chi-Chi has made them sandwiches for the trip, but like we're now done with the filler and it's back to episode time.
Yeah, it's a very funny, abrupt, like 3 years later.
Can we talk about having sandwiches sent to you for a fight against deadly androids?
Yeah,
Can we talk about how ridiculous that kind of is?
Oh, I was going to ask what you would prefer to eat if I was sending you off to battle deadly androids. What do you want me to make you? A BLT or
something that will not let me die? Maybe, like I don't know. Like I'm not thinking about food at this point. Like the dude from the future told me there's gonna be this deadly fight. I don't need food. I need help.
Yeah, just give me a basket full of senzu beans and we'll be fine.
Yeah,
that's what we need right now.
I'm not mad at the time jump though, because like, so I wonder too, like if what happens in Dragon Ball Z Kai. So I know in Dragon Ball Z Kai, I know like they show maybe like the last few minutes of the episode, maybe just like a little bit, and then they do the time jump. I wonder how that affects like how they play it in that episode.
Well, I didn't watch that. I did watch the next episode, and we repeat this scene in the next episode. It is the first scene of the next episode.
Oh, so they probably just were able to just do that for Kai. Probably that makes sense.
Probably, yeah. That's probably.
Yeah, I didn't watch any of Kai. It kind of missed me when it was coming out. So I don't really know. I don't. People complain about it a lot. That's all I know.
People like complaining.
That's true.
I get it though. I understand its purpose to kind of like just streamline everything to what needs. And some anime would actually benefit from that because, as we talk about, a lot of other shows do have filler that maybe they could just cut out.
Mm-hmm.
But with Kai, it was like, either you know what to watch or you don't know what to watch. But I understand its concept and its purpose.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that.
I liked the skip forward, but I also loved the fact that we started the episode with the highest stakes of the world, and then went to driving school, and then ended with the highest stakes in the world. It felt like a really beautiful bookend to me, of reminding me the world's going to end, and we just got to have this little trip, and it was cute, and I liked it.
Yeah. No, I think like I said, it feels almost like it was a bit of self-awareness to structure it like that, because it's like people who are watching the show at this point know when we're doing filler probably, so we're just going to call it out that this is not meant this we're going to specifically contrast the low stakesness of this episode with the high stakes of the story around it, and make that so explicitly clear that like we know this is stupid, that's the point, and so just have fun with it. And I think that makes this episode better than a lot of other episodes of its ilk, because people know what they're getting into as they're watching it, I think,
Yeah, I put in the notes that this was, and after what David said about this being like, kind of, well, the dude that said that, that this was like a bad filler episode. I said this was like the quintessential filler episode of the series.
Yeah.
Because like, again, it's not egregious in the fact that the time is bad. Now, yes, is the world in a balance in 3 years? But that's in 3 years. It's fine.
Right.
I know that this isn't happening like the day before that the androids are coming.
Right.
That would piss me off. But this is like, it's like we're just in the middle of whatever. And so, yeah, it's fun. It's campy. There's nothing really affects the storyline, so you're not like, this doesn't carry on later, like Piccolo has to drive to the Cell games later, like there's none of that. So it's cool. It's just fun.
I will say it was so funny. When I watched the superhero movie last night, I don't know, I'm just dropping so many references to this movie, I guess because I just watched it. It's so fresh in my brain. They reference this episode in a funny way, and in the dub at least. I don't know if the joke's there in the original version, but like Piccolo is like trying to escape by like piloting a jet. And Pan, who's Gohan's daughter in that, she's like, "Wow, you're really bad at driving, Piccolo." And he's like, "Sorry, I never got my driver's license."
Nice.
So good.
Nice. Wow, good timing then, Derek. Mm-hmm. Well, then, friends, is there anything else we need to talk about for this episode, Goku's ordeal, that we haven't already covered?
I did just want to bring back how we talked about the opening and how the last time on Dragon Ball Z, how important that was just as you were watching as a youngster. Just for the recap value, but also they would like kind of sprinkle in certain things that you didn't know was about to happen, or it was like a foreshadow. For example, I think in this one, they were saying, and Gohan's training stronger too, and maybe one day Goku will learn something from him, which is a great foreshadow for this season or for this saga, because then Gohan does become the guy. He becomes a new form of Super Saiyan. So like going back, you're like, oh, they were telling us that Gohan's gonna be the guy in a few episodes. So it's fun to watch that type of thing, and looking back now, being like, oh, they were planting the seeds early.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that.
Yeah.
I also was very appreciative of the last time on and next time on. I love anime for doing that. I think it's just really artistically beautiful. I know that part of it is like keep audiences engaged, but I love a tease for the next episode, and I love a recap from the previous.
Me too, especially when it showcases how much of it doesn't matter in the episode you're watching. Those are always very fun. Like in this case,
I didn't even think to go back to the previous episode and watch the next time on for this. I bet that would have been a trip.
Next time on Dragon Ball Z, Goku and Piccolo find out that learning to drive isn't as easy as it seems.
Oh, I can do that.
Hey, don't sweat it.
Vegeta's still getting plenty of exercise, and so is Chi-Chi. And believe me, she's not too happy about it. On the next episode of Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, how would you even explain that?
Yeah, I'm going to do it as soon as we disconnect, because those are some of my favorite. So the only anime that is a little bit on point with this that did like a previous and next time that had filler was I have watched every episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! And the yeah, listen, Derek, it's not.
How have you watched every episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! And didn't watch Dragon Ball Z?
You date men, and men get you into things, and then you buy like totally illegal DVDs from China that are very poorly translated subtitles in English. Anyway, and every time that the next episode was a filler, because they had lots of filler too, same manga issue, and every time the next one was, the next time on was a wild 90 seconds. Like it was hilarious every single time. Yeah, roast me, internet. Listen, I got into it and I couldn't stop.
Don't judge me here,
Yeah,
man.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Has a huge
like
fan
with, like-
base. So.
I am not in that fan base, but I somehow got roped into this thing.
So weird.
Find me, my people. I'm ready to be part of you. Well, Stik, it was an absolute wonderful joy having you on this episode. If folks want to continue to have this conversation with you online, where can they find you on the internet?
Oh man, I'm on Twitter, or do we still call it Twitter?
Yes, we do.
Or do
We still
X
call it
now?
Twitter. We got it. We call
Nice,
it Twitter.
cool. I like being edgy. So on Twitter and Instagram, you can find me at StikAround54. That's STIK around 54. If you like listening to my voice for some weird reason, I have a bunch of podcasts, man. You can look up Clueless Vino, where I drink wine and have conversations with a bunch of cool people. You can look up Two Tall Boys, where I talk about worldly events and random pop culture stuff with my co-host Keem, as we try not to get canceled. And you can also look up Star Chase Essential Podcast, man, a music about Charles Hampton, one of my favorite artists, his music moments and everything in between. I also write books. You can visit braxtonbooks.com, where, you know, I have a bunch of books out there, man. The last book I wrote was an anime poem collection about Cowboy Bebop. So go get that.
And if you're looking for more of me, you can find me online almost anywhere as DMuma. And I host a podcast here on the Glitterjaw Network called Are You My Mother? Stik has been on, Derek's been on. We talked about Morticia with Stik and Marge Simpson with Derek. And that's a really fun exploration into mother figures in media and how they are either what we think of as their moms or how they betray the expectations of what a mother is. You can find that wherever you get podcasts. Derek, what about you? What else do you have going on?
Sure, you can find me most active on Twitter at Derek P. Gale. You can find me on other platforms under that name or Dare Bear, Mr. Dare Bear. I got a few other podcasts. I got Walloping Web Snappers, where Doug and I look at every Spider-Man cartoon ever made. I've got Screonk, where Doug and I look at all of the Godzilla movies. I have Lee Carvella's Potting Challenge, where Tommy and I are going through all of the Simpsons tie-in video games. And also relevant if you like anime and are into other like Japanese shows. I do a monthly, sometimes more than monthly, Twitch streaming show on Sci-Fi Explosions channel, which is Tokusatsu Thursdays, where we pick a Thursday during the month and just stream a bunch of Tokusatsu shows, clips, music videos, and commercials. Tokusatsu, of course, is like live action Japanese action. So if you're interested in a live action element of Japanese television history, definitely check that out. I don't have the date for April's shows, so follow me on social media to find out when that's going to be.
That's fantastic. Gimmicks, of course, is a proud part of the Glitterjaw Queer Podcast Collective. If you're looking for other queer media podcasts, you can check out the full roster of Glitterjaw shows at glitterjaw.com.
If you want to support this show by giving us a little tip, you can buy us a coffee at ko-fi.com/gimmicspod. You can also follow this podcast at gimmicspod on Twitter and Instagram. You can email us your questions, feedback, and corrections to gimmickspodcast@gmail.com. And of course, rate, review, and subscribe to us on all your podcast platforms. And until next time, friends, keep being weird.
られた地球が起こって火山を爆発させる溶けた氷の中に恐竜がいたら玉乗りしこみたいね来ても気分はへのへのかった
And this
What's he doing?
Is to go even further